Ever lay awake at night wondering if birds are real? That's right, folks. We're diving into one of the most whimsical yet eerily intriguing conspiracy theories out there. The theory that all birds were replaced by government surveillance drones in the 70s and 80s. Now, before you dismiss this as another tinfoil hat theory, consider the evidence. Have you ever noticed how pigeons seem to have an uncanny ability to poop on cars, and only cars? It's almost as if they're programmed to do so. And isn't it odd how certain bird species always seem to fly in suspiciously synchronized patterns, as if they're operating on a shared frequency perhaps? The idea is that during the height of the Cold War, the government, in a bid to keep an eye on its citizens, replaced all birds with drone replicas. These avian androids were then deployed across the country, their primary function being to observe and report. It's said that the bird drones are equipped with advanced technology that allows them to mimic real bird behavior flawlessly. They can eat, fly, even reproduce, all while streaming live video feed to the government. And it's not just the United States. The theory suggests that this is a global phenomenon, with every government in the world participating in this audacious avian ruse. The reason why you've never seen a baby pigeon? They're manufactured in factories, not hatched from eggs. But that's not all. The conspiracy goes deeper, suggesting that the government has been using these bird drones to manipulate the weather. Ever noticed how birds seem to disappear before a storm? That's because they're off adjusting the atmospheric pressure. Of course, this is all conjecture. There's no hard evidence to support these claims, but that's the beauty of a conspiracy theory, isn't it? It thrives in the absence of proof, feeding off our inherent distrust of those in power. So are our feathered friends merely feathery fakes? Stay tuned as we continue to unravel the threads of this captivating conspiracy in our next segment. Ever notice how birds always seem to be watching? Well, let's dive into that. Birds, those seemingly innocent creatures of the sky, are often seen perched on power lines. Now you might be thinking, they're just resting their tiny little wings. But have you ever wondered why they're always on power lines and not, say, telephone poles or tree branches as often? This, my friends, is the first hint of their true mission. Think about it. Power lines are everywhere, crisscrossing our cities and towns, providing a perfect network for surveillance. And what's more, these birds are not just perching, they are recharging. Yes, you heard that right. They perch on power lines to recharge their batteries, quite literally. Now, who said only electric cars need charging? And let's not forget their omnipresence. Birds are everywhere, from the most bustling cities to the most remote wilderness. Watching, always watching. They see everything, hear everything. It's an interesting coincidence, don't you think? Now, before you dismiss this as just another wild theory, let's look at some quotes. One renowned ornithologist, who shall remain nameless, once said, "Birds have an uncanny knack for being at the right place at the right time." Another expert in avian behavior was quoted saying, "It's almost as if they're watching us." And there was this one time where a top official from an unnamed government agency, in a moment of unguarded candor, let slip, "If only we had the observational capabilities of birds." Now, if that doesn't raise some eyebrows, I don't know what will. So let's connect the dots here. Birds perch on power lines, seemingly recharging. They're always around, watching, listening, and experts, real experts, have made some intriguing comments about their behaviors. What does this all add up to? Well, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But remember, next time a bird lands near you, it might not just be there to sing you a merry tune, it might be taking notes. So, next time a bird lands near you, remember, it might be taking notes. What if I told you that the government is behind all of this? Yes, you heard right. The government, the very institution we trust to safeguard our liberties, is the puppeteer pulling the strings of this grand avian charade. Let's take a walk down memory lane, back to the bird flu epidemic. A terrifying time indeed. But what if it was all a ruse, a smokescreen for the government's most audacious operation yet? The perfect opportunity to replace every bird in the sky with a robotic spy. Sound far-fetched? Well, let's examine some facts. In a document declassified in 2021, an excerpt reads, "Operation Avian Eyes, the initiative to monitor America from the skies." A harmless surveillance program, you might think, but what if Avian Eyes was an analogy for something far more sinister? Another document, this one from the Department of Homeland Security, notes the commissioning of 5 million units of advanced aeronautic machinery during the bird flu epidemic. Now, what could possibly necessitate such an enormous order, precisely when our feathered friends were supposedly dropping like flies? And it doesn't stop there. An alleged quote from a high-ranking CIA official, leaked in a memo from 2017, states, "The birds have landed." A cryptic message indeed. But in the context of our bird drone theory, it takes on a whole new meaning. Now, I'm not saying the government replaced all birds with drones, but I'm not saying it either. All these facts, when viewed through the lens of the bird drone conspiracy, paint a chilling picture. So, next time you're out in the park enjoying the serenade of a songbird or watching a flock of pigeons scatter in the city square, remember, those aren't just birds. They're avian agents, sentinels of the sky, watching your every move. The government's got their eyes on you, and those eyes have feathers. Surely there must be some truth to these bird brain theories, right? Well, let's ruffle some feathers and dive into the unfeathered facts. First off, the most touted evidence of our feathered friends being government spies is their suspicious behavior. Ever noticed how birds are always watching you? Well, you're not alone. But let's be real, folks. If birds were indeed surveillance agents, they're likely the worst spies in history. I mean, pooping on people in cars isn't exactly the most covert operation, is it? Secondly, some argue that birds' migration patterns are evidence of them returning to government facilities for repairs and updates. Now, this might sound plausible until we remember that, oh yeah, we've been observing these patterns for centuries, long before the invention of the microchip or even electricity. Would you believe that ancient Egyptians were in on the conspiracy too? Then there's the claim that you never see baby pigeons, implying they're manufactured fully grown in some top-secret government lab. While it's true that you rarely see baby pigeons, it's simply because they stay in their nests until they're almost fully grown. Not as exciting as a covert bird-making operation, but definitely more believable. And who could forget the infamous Birds Aren't Real rally where a bird pooped on the speaker's shoulder? Some say it was a government retaliation, but I say it was just a bird doing what birds do best, making a mess at the most inconvenient times. Lastly, the notion that all birds are fake is a bit of a stretch. With over 10,000 species of birds worldwide, that's a whole lot of batteries to change, and let's not even get started on the logistics of keeping this massive operation a secret. So, while the evidence might not quite fly, it sure does make for a good story. Let's just hope our feathered friends aren't listening in on this one, or we might find our cars covered in a fresh layer of retaliation. So, what's the verdict? Are birds real, or are we all just living in a giant bird cage? Well, let's recap our flight of fancy so far. We've taken a deep dive into the great avian conspiracy, unraveling the theory that our feathered friends might just be government operatives in disguise. From pigeons perched on power lines to seagulls soaring above the sea, we've questioned the reality of birds as we know them. We've examined the idea that birds of a feather don't just flock together, they spy together too. We've even delved into the notion of government aviary agents, a concept as wild as a woodpecker's pecking spree. Then, we've unfurled the unfeathered facts, a collection of evidence as flimsy as a sparrow's wing. From the suspicious absence of baby pigeons in our cities to the eerie stillness of birds during government shutdowns, we've questioned it all. So, where does that leave us? Well, here in the nest of lies, we're left with more questions than answers. Could it be that we're all just living in a world where the birds aren't what they seem? Or perhaps, is it all just a bit of a lark? Regardless, it's been a hoot exploring this winged world of conspiracy with you. Let it be a reminder that in this vast universe of ours, even the most outlandish theories can take flight. So keep your eyes on the skies, your mind open, and your binoculars at the ready. After all, the next bird you spot could be watching you. As we wrap up our avian adventure, let's not forget to laugh at the absurdity of it all, even as we ponder the possibilities. Because in this wild, wacky world, who knows what truths might be hiding in plain sight. Remember, in the world of conspiracy theories, the sky's the limit, and it might just be full of government drones.